You're listening to the Zach Lowe Show, sponsored by FanDuel. America's #1 sportsbook has made it easier than ever to get in on the action during an NBA playoff game. That's right now, even after tip-off. Just look for the live SGP tab on the FanDuel Sportsbook app and build your bet slip. Then sit back, relax, and track the outcome of your parlay right in the app. And if you don't already have it, download the FanDuel app today to make every moment more. The Ringer is committed to responsible gaming. Please visit rg-help.com to learn more about the resources and helplines available and listen to the end of the episode for additional details. Must be 21 and over and present in select states. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Coming up on the Zach Lowe Show, the Thunder are in the finals. We reflect on their last 13 years, from the James Harden, Russ, KD Big Three to lots of stuff that happened in between, to a dominant win over Minnesota. We got Big Woz coming on, Knicks, Pacers, Wolves, Nuggets, and then we respond to Bill by ranking all the teams in the East best to worst in terms of medium-term futures. Is Indiana really number one? Coming up on the Zach Lowe Show with Big Woz. Welcome to the Zach Lowe Show. It's Thursday morning. I got a few hours before I head into New York City to see if the Knicks can make the Pacers sweat just a little bit, can make MSG rock just one more time. But before we go there, we got to talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder. And we got a very special first-time guest. He's wearing my favorite hat in the world. Big Woz, what's up?
What's going on, brother? Proud to be up here, man. Big fan of the show for years.
Well, you know I'm a big fan of Group Chat. I have called it the best NBA podcast in the world. I'm a regular listener. I told you that in person at, I think it was still Staples Center back then, maybe before it became the Crypt. And now we're teammates. It's exciting to have you on. Love the hat. And we got a lot to talk about, my friend. You ready to go?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
The Oklahoma City Thunder blew the doors off the Minnesota Timberwolves last night in Game 5. And it's been a long time coming, Woz. The Thunder are back in the NBA Finals. From 2012, losing to the Heat, the Harden trade, that was a big one. Didn't work out great for them. Some deep playoff runs still in the next couple years. A couple undone by injuries, including ill-timed Russell Westbrook injuries. The rise of the Warriors, the Klay Thompson game. Game 6 play, birthed in Oklahoma City. And then those same Warriors, thanks to a once-in-a-lifetime cap spike, steal the greatest player in the history of the Oklahoma City Thunder still, Kevin Durant. Then a Paul George trade happens. That was interesting. We're going to get back to that. Still relevant. Paul George just birthing great teams in his wake in every direction and every conference. Everywhere he goes and leaves behind, there's a great team in the wake. Then there's a Chris Paul year. Do you remember the Chris Paul year?
I remember it well. I remember that playoff series against Houston where Lou Dort had James Harden in his freaking pocket. Yeah, I remember that very well.
You know what I didn't remember? That Chris Paul finished 7th in MVP voting that year and made second team All-NBA for a strong playoff team. We remember the Schroeder, Shea, CP guard trio. I didn't remember CP having like that kind of year. And then they move on. CP3 gets dumped over to Phoenix. The signals are sent. We're actually going into the deep rebuild mode. Al Horford comes in. Al Horford is sort of like banished into a closet somewhere. Shea, you're injured. Your ankle hurts. Take all the time you want. And it felt like a deep tank. It felt like a tank that was going to take a long time. 2 bad years. That's it. 2 bad years. There are franchises littered across the Eastern Conference that would kill for just 2 bad years between periods of relevancy. We're going to talk about some of them later. Those bad years netted 2 high draft picks. The first was Josh Giddey. If you remember going into that lottery, the Thunder had a chance at 2 top 5 picks if the ping pong balls bounced right for them. Theirs in Houston. They got none. They got the number 6 pick, Josh Giddey. Now he's Alex Caruso. And the second one, maybe not an underrated watershed moment, but a watershed moment. The next year, moving up from number 4 to number 2 and drafting Chet Holmgren. And my God, the difference between Chet Holmgren and number 4 and beyond in that draft is a chasm. And then a play-in, a second round, and ahead of schedule, ahead of my schedule, ahead of anyone's schedule, They are 12-4 in the playoffs with a net rating of plus 11 per 100 possessions, a defense that is 3.5 points per 100 possessions better than the number 2 defense in the playoffs, and even better than it was in the regular season. The Thunder are back. They're here, and they ain't going anywhere. I just outlined the whole timeline. What are your thoughts on this strange journey from not even point A to point B? It was just meandering, but we're back.
I mean, for me, it's the Paul George trade for both sides of that equation. I just remember being at Summer League when that trade was executed, and there was just a consensus. Like, the Lakers had got punked. Kawhi is on the Clippers. They also got Paul George in one fell swoop. Everybody just knew the Clippers were on their way to multiple championships. This was also the same summer that the Lakers traded for Anthony Davis, and New Orleans was on the precipice of drafting Zion as well. So they got Brandon Ingram, they got Josh Hart, they got, the Lonzo, the whole package. And I remember Griff was a genius. He was the belle of the ball at Summer League. And the Shea piece was very just underrated, man. Like, nobody really cared that much. People in our industry really cared about the picks that they got. Nobody was that impressed by Shea. And I had just started working for The Athletic midway through Shea's rookie year. And I remember I would go to damn near every single Clippers game. And I remember talking to one guy that works for the Clippers and him being like, yo, we think Shea is the next Penny Hardaway. And I remember being offended by that. I was like, are you out of your mind? Penny Hardaway? Like, whatever, right? And that was it. It's not as if Shea had, let's just rewind the clock to Anthony Edwards' rookie year. Like, after that year, people would be like, whoa, this is a blue chip prospect. There would have to be something serious to move him, or even like a Evan Mobley, right? After his rookie year, where people will call him the next Duncan or Garnett or whatever. None of that applied to Shea, right? When they got him at the time. And he's turned into the best player in the league. He's turned into the MVP. To me, that's what's jarring about this. It's like how they acquired Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and his journey from cool rookie prospect. Like, Doc even liked him. Doc even played him as a rookie, which is like a miracle. I remember Sam Cassell was working with this kid every freaking day before games. And now, look at him. The guy is legitimately the MVP. He's been the best player in the NBA playoffs, and he's about to lead them and he's led them to the NBA Finals.
So, Shea as a rookie, well, first of all, obviously the trade got them a million other things, including Jalen Williams via the number 12 pick, and there's more coming. Shea as a rookie, 10.8 points per game. Nice. Finished sixth in Rookie of the Year voting. Sixth. Like you said, and he was the 11th pick in the draft, and they traded for his rights with the Hornets, if you remember. It was Miles Bridges. Here's what we're all wrong about a lot of stuff, right, Woz? Like, I was
all
dead,
the time.
I was dead wrong about, like, when the Pacers traded Paul George to Oklahoma City for Oladipo and Sabonis. My evaluation of that trade was like, I can't believe this is all they got. They could have got more. Not a great trade for the Pacers. We'll get into what they ended up getting for the other end of that trade. Here, I went back and I read my piece about the Kawhi, Paul George, Thunder, Clippers thing. Here's what I wrote. Gilgeous-Alexander is a stud. I bet on him making multiple all-star teams. Undersold it. Turns out way undersold it. But I think I'm giving myself a tepid pat on the back for that.
Sure.
The Thunder, and then I wrote some other stuff about how much they have. This is a haul for Oklahoma City. In 5 or 6 years, the Thunder might come out as the biggest winners of this trade. Think about it like this. In a roundabout way, they turned Serge Ibaka into everything they got in this trade. Now, in 5 or 6 years, the Thunder might come out of this as the biggest winners. Undersold again. And that's like paragraph 18 of a piece that was all Clippers love for like 17 paragraphs. But to your point, first of all, I don't think Shea's the best player in the NBA. I still think Jokic is.
Sure.
But second of all, I'm with you. Like, one of the discussions I wanted to have was like, I ended up going Shea for MVP. I didn't have a vote, but I picked Shea as MVP. feeling great about that. Like there was a whole midway through the playoffs, there was a whole obviously we all made the wrong decision. Jokic is the MVP. I still think Jokic is the best player, but Shea has been amazing all year, matched him stat for stat, has been shooting 50% on mid-range shots the whole playoffs. It's the shot that no one has an answer for. It's the shot that Anthony Edwards, who we're going to talk about, does not have yet. And it's the reason why the Thunder are going on, and one reason, and Minnesota is not going on. And 30 a game, 47% from the field, 52% on twos. Good defense, can't hunt him, try to hunt him, it doesn't work out. And they're plus 14 with him on the floor, plus 6 with him on the bench. And I go back to for me at the end of the day, 68 wins was the trump card. I just feel like it's still underrated. People are like, well, they won a lot of games. No, they almost won 70 games.
Yeah.
They won 18 more games than the Nuggets. I was totally cool in the middle of that series when it was 2-1 Denver. I'm totally cool now leading Shea for MVP. But to your point, 6th in Rookie of the Year. People can talk now. Doc can talk now about, he saw it coming the whole time. He saw it coming by the way.
Did not.
Nobody saw this coming. Nobody.
The Thunder didn't see it coming either, or else they would have asked for a lot less in the trade. Again, Evan Mobley after his rookie year, my man Rob Mahoney was like, yeah, this guy could be the next Tim Duncan, right? Nobody was saying this kind of stuff about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, right? I don't want to say he was a throw-in. He was, in terms of a package of young play, you always want a young guy with potential coming back when you move a superstar along with some draft picks. He definitely fit that mold, but again, nobody thought he was the MVP. And I contrasted with the New Orleans trade because that's a team who, for years, we've been saying is mega talented. Now imagine if they had an MVP, perennial top 3 MVP guy on that team that they would have acquired during the AD trade. It didn't happen. And Brandon Ingram, I would say, had a higher pedigree when he was moved to New Orleans than Shea did when he was moved to OKC, right? And that's how these trades happen in the NBA sometimes. Sometimes you trade for a young guy that ends up being Brandon Ingram, who nobody pretty much cares about anymore. And sometimes you trade for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
I was just about to say, if you ask 100 casual NBA fans, what team is Brandon Ingram on right now? How many do you think would get the right answer? I'm putting the over-under at 55.5.
You think it would be in the 50s?
You think less than that?
Pick?
You think it'd be less than that?
In the 30s, 20s. Are you kidding me?
I'm giving him too much credit, I guess. I want to talk about the first Paul George trade, the Oklahoma City Thunder acquiring Paul George, because there was a school of thought at the time of the Clippers trade, the Shea trade, and still to this day, that almost like the way people talk about Pelinka acquiring Luka, Sam Presti just walked in to infinite leverage because the Clippers were so desperate to get Kawhi and had to placate him. And this was the only way to placate him. And this was the only place to go, Oklahoma City, to placate him. So of course they asked for everything. And of course they got everything. You could have done that. I could have done that. It doesn't take a genius to do that.
That's not
maybe,
true.
Maybe not. You know what was the ballsy move? Acquiring Paul George in the first place.
Yes.
That was not really, when people were doing fake Paul George trades, that was not it. I remember I brought it up with Arnovitz on a podcast. I said, you know what is my favorite wild, it'll never happen Paul George scenario? And I said, Paul George to the Thunder for Oladipo. Indiana guy going back to Indiana. And I was like, but they'll never do it. It's not a Sam Presti thing to do. He did it. He did it in part, I think, I've never talked to him about it really, to keep the team afloat in the post KD era, give Russ a legit running mate and have some fun and maybe make a playoffs, maybe win a playoff series. They never did, but they were good, fun teams. But also, I think with an eye on, we've got to position ourselves to make the next move somehow. He knew Russ's contract was not going to be the one that made them get the next move, although, of course, they end up stealing everything from the Rockets, including Chris Paul in the end. And it ended up being getting that Paul George deal done was an opportunistic stroke of genius and is the under-discussed element in the Thunder being back here today.
But I got to make a confession about Sam Presti up here. I think not getting Paul George, but retaining Paul George is when I changed my mind about
at the party.
Sam
I
Presti.
Forgot about that. It was at a house party or something, right?
And Nas performed. It was a whole thing. But when when Paul George got traded from Indiana, there had been chatter around him that he was dying to go to LA because he's an LA guy, even though he's from Palmdale, which is like saying like a Poughkeepsie guy's a Brooklyn guy, but whatever, right? Like, whatever. They got Paul George, and the idea was like, this guy's leaving. Like, he didn't want to leave Indiana to go to OKC, to go to the Prairie. Like, this guy wants to go to a big city. Like, that's what he's been dying to do. And when Sam Presti talked Paul George into signing with the team, which I don't know, I didn't report on this. I'm gonna assume he told Paul George, if you want to get moved, I'll probably move you in the future, right? If you sign this deal. That's what I'm gonna assume happened. Either way, he convinced this guy to sign back long-term in OKC. Like, that's when I changed my mind about Sam Presti, because I don't know, it's just a sort of way like people in our industry talk about the GMs, and the GM is just the greatest and the smartest, and oh, we love the GM, we love the management types. Okay, cool. And the type of GMs who get the assets and get to this and get to that, where I'm just like, teams put dope teams together without ever doing these kind of deals all the time, but whatever. I changed my mind about Presti when he showed he had the juice to talk Paul George in the stand. I'm like, damn, not only does he understand all of this, sort of analytical, empirical data stuff that everybody loves, but he can do the people stuff too. He can go up to Paul George and be like, this is a good idea to stay here, and I'm going to make it worth your while. And that's when I was like, all right, this guy is the best at what he does. And retaining Paul George, to me, convincing that guy who everybody just knew for 3-4 years wanted to be in LA or some huge market somewhere to stay in OKC for extra time, and then moving him afterwards. And people forget this. Paul George had his best year ever with OKC. He had like
third in MVP.
Yes. Okay, finished third. Like, again, man, these guys don't move all the time, especially as a wing. This isn't like some little point guard who finished third in MVP or a big man who we had all assumed were being phased out of the game. This is a 6'9", ball handling, creator, scorer, wing type of player who finished third in MVP. And yeah, he got a lot for him and, changed the franchise around by doing it.
One of the things he got for him, as I mentioned, was Jalen Williams. And here's the scary thing that's happened in the playoffs, and particularly in the conference finals. J-Dub in the conference finals, 22 points a game, 6.5 rebounds, 4.5 assists, 49% shooting, 46% on threes. Chet in the conference finals, 18 a game, 6 rebounds, 1.5 assists, 57% shooting, 37% on threes. Opponents are shooting 50% at the rim with Chet as the closest defender in the playoffs. That's like Wembanyama level rim protection. Now, for the full playoffs, their shooting numbers aren't as good. In fact, the Thunder are shooting 33.5% on threes for the playoffs. That's 13th. The teams that are worse than them are Orlando, Memphis, and Detroit, all long gone. They've got another level to hit. They've started to hit it. And in particular, their second and third best players, the guys that were the X factors of the year, have started to hit it. And that should scare the entire league. And this is why, these guys are both going to come up for extensions at the same time. The Thunder are going to retain both of them. They are incredibly well positioned to navigate all the apron crap that is coming for any team that's got a lot of talent. And obviously, like, even getting to the conference finals, any panic move, any like trade one of the young guys for Giannis or something, like, is way off the table. It would have messed up their cap sheet. It's gone now. And what those two guys did in the conference finals should scare the rest of the league. And then, like I mentioned, Giddy Caruso. Presti used, and he open about it, used last year as like, this is going to be our first like really good year. I'm not going to rush it. I want to see what these guys have in the playoffs. I want to see what flaws emerge and what we have to address. And everyone anticipated the Giddy flaw emerging. The Caruso and Hartenstein moves were such smart, like, okay, the era of mystery and intrigue is over. The era of sure things has to begin now. These dudes are sure things for the holes they fill in our team. Mystery out, sure things in. This is a super complete team that is still hitting its upside. They're going to be huge favorites in the finals, no matter who they play. And I mean, I don't even know what else to say. Like they didn't even hit everything. They didn't hit Şengün. I mean, they didn't hit Poku. You can go back and look at moves, but like, if as long as they're healthy, and that's obviously a question for every team, like, it's a pretty goddamn perfect basketball situation right now.
No, for sure. We talked about it on a group chat last night, and it's almost like that scene in every Spider-Man movie where he realizes he can like shoot the web out of his wrist or whatever. That's what's happening with the Thunder in real time, where, you know, you talk about J-Dub against Denver, there were many moments where this guy was stinking up the joint. And I would submit that if they didn't get Caruso, who made countless, I'm talking about series-altering shots and defensive plays against Denver.
You need me to defend Jokic with our whole season on the line? Sure, look, just sign me up. I'll do it.
Yeah, let's do it, right? So without those two signings, I don't think the Thunder, as is, could have beaten that Denver team, you know? And by the way, like, because Hartenstein and because Caruso are able to step up in those big moments against Denver, that gets them over the hump. And guess what? Like, J-Dub is like, he's now got more playoff experience under his wings, and now he's been able to blossom. Like, if they lose in the second round again, he's got to get that experience next year. So that's what you got to be worried about for the rest of the league, where it's like, it's not just that these guys are achieving stuff. It's like, long term, these guys they have this continuity and this collective experience that's going to serve them in a way that they're just going to be a whale of a playoff team going forward, no matter what. So long as Chet, J-Dub, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander are on this team, they're going to be damn near impossible to beat.
A couple last things, and I'm not going to look too ahead to the finals too much quite yet, because, you know, the Knicks have home court advantage. What percentage chance would you? What percentage chance right now? It's 10:30 in the morning Eastern time. We got like 10 hours till the game. What percentage chance would you give the Knicks of forcing a Game 7 in this series?
That would mean 2 straight victories. 10, 5.
Oh, I'm higher. 5 years. It's over for you.
It's over.
It's over.
They've demonstrated that they're just not as good as this team. They're just not as good.
I'm going 30%. I'm going to try to be optimistic.
You really think?
Here's my thing. You got to win tonight. You got some pride. Yeah. You got to win tonight. You have pride. You got a lot of top tier talent. Win tonight. At least make them sweat. At least make them feel the pressure of Game 6 as the team without home court advantage and what's looming in game. At least make them just, do they come out shaky? Is it 25-10 Knicks 3 minutes into Game 6, 5 minutes into Game 6? That's all. The only thing I will say is, we all knew Minnesota's turnover issues were just, if they had a high turnover series, they were dead. And it's like every time Julius Randle dribbled the ball, it was just like, stop dribbling. Just pick the goddamn thing up. It's not going to go well for you. Indiana doesn't turn the ball over. That's one thing you have. That's one box you have to check to have a chance. I will say this. The Pacers live in this like frenzy world where there's just movement. They're just moving around, flying around, setting screens, handoffs, pitches, and their randomness throws off every opponent they face. I think the Thunder like that frenzy. I think the Thunder defense is well suited to like, oh, you want to live in a frenzy? We'll live in a frenzy too. Like we can frenzy right next to you. Like that's all I'm going to say. And last thing on MVP that I forgot to mention and why I'm okay with it. The 68 wins was underrated. The fact that Holmgren and Hartenstein and missed like enormous amounts of the season, and Caruso was clearly load managed the whole season. It's not like the Thunder were a fully healthy 68 win team. They were missing key guys the whole season. That's it. FanDuel is turning your bets into bigger wins with a parlay profit boost. That's right. Build a same game parlay or parlay, and you can boost your winnings by 30% with a profit boost. You pick the teams, the players, the stats, all of it. FanDuel just adds a little fuel to the fire. Whether you're betting 3-pointers, home runs, goals, or birdies, golf, FanDuel's got markets across every sport and every game. And the best part, when you'll win, you'll get paid instantly. So go check it out. FanDuel is where your parlay gets paid even bigger. Head to FanDuel.com/Lowe, my last name, to get started. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Must be 21 or over in present and select states, or 18 and over in present and DC. Opt-in required. Bonus issued is not withdrawable. Profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com.
This episode is brought to you by HubSpot. Growing a business can feel impossible, but HubSpot's customer platform can help. It's powered by a suite of AI tools called Breeze, so you can generate more leads, close more deals, and scale your service fast. With Breeze, agents handling the busy work, customers are cutting sales cycles in half. That's a lot, and saving hours on work each week. Best of all, you can see the results in days, not months. Visit HubSpot.com/AI to learn more.
Okay, I have some follow-up questions from the Thunder's victory. Are you ready to go?
Yeah, let's do it.
Number one, Anthony Edwards. A lot of Ant discourse in the last 48 hours about his level of aggression, about when you're the number one guy, you just got to do it. You just got to take the ball to the hole. For the playoffs, 25 points a game, 8 rebounds, 5.5 assists, 45% shooting. It's like sub-Ant expectations, I think.
Sure.
For the West Finals, 23 points a game, 4.5 assists to 3.5 turnovers, 48% shooting, 47% from three. Only took 17 shots a game. Overall in the playoffs, he took 20. Definitely shot less. Minus 41 when Ant was on the floor. Plus 10 when Ant was on the bench. What of this Ant angst do you buy? What do you not buy? What did you see? Where are we in the Anthony Edwards, by the way, not yet 23 years old, journey here in the NBA?
I not panicked. Folks have to understand.
Not yet 24 years old. Sorry, I misstated his age.
Folks need to understand that there are no contextless superstars, meaning, LeBron James, peak KD, peak Duncan or Shaq. No matter the context, they're going to dominate. They're going to elevate their team to contender status, no matter what. Most other guys need to have complementary pieces around them in order for them to play at their peak levels at every turn. If you watch these games, they're loading up on Ant. Sometimes he's making the right decisions. Sometimes you're like, yo, in this moment right here, you got to force the issue against Caruso, stop dancing, and force him to foul you, right? There's things that he could be doing better, but I don't think this team that was built on the fly, they traded Karl Anthony Towns because they thought his deal was a little bit too much on the fly and was just like, we'll figure this out. In the meantime, nobody thought Julius Randle was some amazing Anthony Edwards fit when they did that deal. That's not to make mistakes. I'm just saying, this team getting to the conference finals is a big deal. Ant being incredible for most of that run is a big deal. And I think they ran into a team that was just a horrible matchup. Now, I think Ant could have played better in this matchup, bad as it was. But I don't see this guy. This isn't 2007 where, LeBron James could take, Boobie Gibson to the freaking finals. That NBA is gone. And people need to understand that when they're evaluating individuals based off of what the team has produced. Just get that out your brain, bro. Ant can be an awesome player while also coming up short, not playing to his standard against, again, a 68-win team that built that record on a historically great defense. Now, do I think Ant should have played better? Yes. Do I now think less of Ant as far as a talent or his pedigree? I think that's absurd. This guy is amazing. The fact that he's developed this pull-up three-point shot that I think is an essential weapon for a lead guard. If you can't shoot off the dribble threes, off of pick and roll, it's going to be hard for you to be an elite, ball dominant kind of guard. So he has that. The playmaking has every single year gotten better and better and better. Now, is he a Chris Paul? No, he's not, but he's getting way better. And he's doing it in the context of the bigs being Rudy Gobert and Julius Randle. These aren't the dream spacers operating space. Let me figure out, put the defense in a bind with my driving ability and all these great shooters I have spaced out. Even Naz Reid, yes, he makes threes, but let's be real here, guys. The context of what Ant is doing has to matter.
If you freeze some of these drives, whether it's pick and roll or just ISO, getting by Caruso, getting by the first layer of defense, getting by Dort, whatever. The moment he's in the paint, Literally, I'm not exaggerating. All 5 Thunder defenders have a foot in the paint. All of them. And they're like on top of him. Now, a couple of things there that are, and so like, you're like, what are you supposed to do? You can't just plow through 4 dudes. These are big, strong dudes. They're walling off your path to the rim. A couple of things that I do think are on Ant. Number one, he's like a B- B passer that needs to get up to B+, A-.
Yes.
And so like there's one play, the game's already getting out of hand, but there's like a minute 10 left in the first quarter last night where he beats Caruso one-on-one, gets into the paint, everyone's around him, and he doesn't see Alexander Walker wide open in the strong side corner. And I don't know who he passes the ball to, but it doesn't go well. Nothing went well. Number two, in all of these possessions, the crowd comes when he's like 12 feet from the rim. And that's the point I was making earlier about Shea and the mid-range shot. Ant just hasn't developed a reliable long two. He's high 30s every year, which is bad. And his frequency of shooting those shots has dropped every year. It was like 10% of his shots are long twos. He's going down the Harden path of it's all or nothing. It's 3 or rim. And I think against a defense like this, you just need different ways to attack the defense. One of them is be a good 16-foot jump shot shooter who will actually take them. The other thing is, and I remember I talked with Ant on the phone in an interview about this after they beat Memphis in the first round. Or no, they lose to Memphis. Whoever won that series. I think Memphis won that series.
The very first one, Memphis won.
Yeah.
But every game came down to the wire, and Minnesota should have won that series.
But he attacked Morant a lot in that series. I remember talking to him like, do you want to, like, where are you on the back to the basket? Just like post up, bend the defense that way. And he was super excited that anyone asked him about it. He wanted to talk about it. He wanted to develop it. And he hasn't developed that really much at all. And I think all of those pieces, he's 24 years old, almost. All of those levels are getting a little higher every year. You talked about the experience that J-Dub and Chet got. This dude has been in playoff wars against the best teams and best players of this sort of mini half decade in the NBA. He's going to come out of this series with new tricks, with a renewed commitment to doing stuff, mid-range shots, and better for it. But the passing is real. The mid-range thing is real. And the other thing I'll say is like, and Russillo nailed this. There were just too many possessions where he doesn't have the ball and Dort's face guarding him, and he just does nothing. Like Jaden McDaniels took 5 shots in the first 4 minutes of the game last night, and Ant took either 1 or 0. You look at the second possession of the game. The second possession. He stands in the right corner the whole time, like just strolling around like he's walking on a sidewalk outside a bodega. Just nothing to do, doing nothing. He points at one time, like you go, like, so, oh, hey, you do something. And it's like, there are just too many possessions. There's a couple where he's literally not on the screen, where he gets doubled at half court, passes the ball, and you do not see him again. That passivity off the ball, and I think Russillo, that's what Russillo was getting at when he talked about being disengaged. On the second possession of the game, that just could not happen. And in the first quarter, as the game was spiraling, it happened like every other possession almost.
Yeah, I mean, they scored 9 points in the whole quarter. That felt like bags were packed for Turks and Caicos, it seems, between Ant and the rest of his compadres. So, I'm not going to make too big of a deal of the Game 5 where these guys are down 3-1. They've been outclassed essentially the whole series. Game 4, like down the stretch, they just got crushed. Like every single thing was answered. And, I'm just not going to go too crazy about it. I think he's proven himself that he is a potent, like highly competent star level playoff player, which is like the number one thing you need to figure out in this league as a team. Do I have one of those guys? Well, Minnesota has one of those guys, and he's doing it with Mike Conley on the back end of his career, Rudy Gobert, who, again, offensively, golly, Jesus Christ. Okay. And Julius Randle, who, like, after the Warriors series, I'm talking to somebody, I'm like, they got to pay this guy, right? Now, after this series, it's like, they can't possibly pay this guy, right?
Oh, we're going to talk about this. Don't worry.
So, again, I don't want to sit here and make excuses or cope for Ant, but I don't think the context here is so infallible that we should be looking at Ant like he's some big failure in this postseason.
Here's some more context. So he started getting aggressive midway through the first quarter last night. More drives to the basket, got to the line a couple times, made a floater. What happened between not aggressive Ant getting played out of the game, playing himself out of the game, Ant, to all of a sudden attacking Ant? What happened was the Thunder went from 2 big men on the floor to 1. And once that happened, a switch goes off in Ant's head where it's like, I can call Chet's, let's say Chet's the only big man on the floor, Hartenstein's on the bench. I can call Chet up into a pick and roll. And if I get by that layer of defense, it's all guards. Now, they're all awesome guards and big guards, but they're dudes my size. I can plow through them. If it's Hartenstein up at the level of the screen and Chet's on the back line, I just got problems. Like I got problems. And if you double me, there's a possession, and I highlighted this for our producer, Jesse. I hope we can make something fun social out of this. There's a possession, 7:45 in the first quarter. The 2 bigs are in. Ant runs a pick and roll. They blitz him, and I thought it was smart they started to blitz Ant more as the season went on. Mm-hmm. It's Ant Gobert. And they blitz him. Ant makes the right play. He hits Randle on the wing, who's open, because Randle's guy dips in to help on Gobert rolling to the rim. Randle, touch pass to Gobert, rolling to the rim. Rudy, what passes for a touch pass for Rudy? It's not quite
a touch pass. It was like a one-hander.
One-handed lefty pass to McDaniels in the corner. McDaniels misses a wide open 3. It's like, what is he supposed to do? It's a wide open 3. It's just how DiVincenzo and Alexander Walker went bananas in game 4 when everyone hammered Ant. And by the way, the Wolves played their best offensive game of the series by a long shot. What struck me about that play was it is exactly the same, minus a little bit of grace and precision, on the same floor in the same round as a play that I will always remember. It's memorialized in a Spurs fandom YouTube video from the conference finals in 2014 that I coined the word, not that anyone uses it. I called it a Spursgasm. It was when the Spurs went crazy, and that play is the same exact double the pick and roller. It's Ginobili to Mills to Duncan to Diaw in the same corner on the same court. Beautiful basketball. Shot goes in. Correct basketball last night. Shot doesn't go in. Like, what is Ant supposed to do? They're literally like, I hope we can put them side to side on Instagram or something. It's the same exact play that was lauded for representing the beautiful game 10 years ago, 11 years ago, and now is criticized for, well, here's Ant giving the ball up to his teammates who can't make shots. Well, someone's got to make a goddamn shot.
Yeah, Jaden McDaniels, who overall shot pretty well for the playoffs.
Awesome. Love the contract. He's great.
Last night, those corner threes wide open, had no shot. Okay. And there was like 5 or 6 of them in the first quarter, like no shot. It is what it is. We want to make these grand proclamations after every season. I get it. Like, it's more fun to be that way, to be like, oh, Ant's a failure. He's not who we thought he was. Oh, let's move on from him. I'm good. Like,
I love Ant's on schedule. I got to be absolutely crystal clear, I got 0 worries about Anthony Edwards on the floor. None.
I mean, what year is this of Jason Tatum, which to me was the best year of his life, is fully realized Jason Tatum, where, like, I know people might snicker, but I'm like, man, this guy figured out his drive game, his post game. 8th season, where you were like, oh, like everything that we ever foresaw for this guy, like being 6'8", being able to handle it, being a playmaker, being a great rebounder, guarding bigs when he needs to, guarding smalls when he needs to. Like, all of these things that finally materialized and coalesced happened for Tatum this year, where I'm like, this guy's legitimately probably the 5th best player in the league this year. Watching him all year. Sucks that the Achilles happened. Like, this is year 8 that happened for Tatum. So let's relax.
Follow up to the Western Conference Finals destruction number 2. I had a coach text me, not a head coach, just a coach, I'll just say, who I really respect, text me after game 2 when it was 2-0. And his argument to me was, Minnesota was never really that good. And then he went on. He said, they're not as good as healthy Golden State. They got lucky that Curry got hurt. Not as good as healthy Nuggets. Not as good as healthy Clippers. They got into the right side of the bracket. They caught a huge injury break in the second round. This was more or less fool's gold for them. And now they have, as you mentioned with Randle and Naz Reid and Alexander Walker, all these questions going forward. What's your take on the Minnesota Timberwolves after this? Were they not as good as we thought they were, or where are we?
Again, the grand proclamations, I can't quite go there because one, a lot of people were picking the Lakers to come out of that side of the bracket, and they
picked the Lakers on national television to win the Western Conference. That's a thing that happened.
Yeah, and it wasn't just the TV guys, the mainstream guys. Like, a lot of people thought the Lakers were good. A lot of people thought the Lakers were going to win that series. They housed that team.
I did. I picked the Lakers in 7.
So did I. Right? Now, Golden State, while Steph looked right, was running roughshod over these guys. Again, it's one game.
It's one quarter.
It was one quarter. They took care of business against that team, and then they got beat up by OKC. But guess what? OKC was on the brink. Game 5 was on the brink. Lost game 6. Like, they could have easily lost to Denver. That's a 7-game, tight-ass series. 2 times they came back from double-digit fourth-quarter deficits in order to win that series. Are you telling me, after what Minnesota had been doing to Denver for a year and change, you think Minnesota would have got smoked by Denver in the conference finals? I don't think so. So, like, I get it. I think the league now, with this apron stuff, and you're not allowed to retain a bunch of players and all of this other stuff, like, it is a matchup-dependent playoff process, man. And yes, they look horrible against OKC, but I think they would have looked pretty decent against a team that damn near is probably going to end up being OKC's toughest series. Minnesota has whooped their asses up and down the court for over a year now. So, like, do I think they're a 2-seed level normal Western Conference team? Probably not, but I think they're more talented than the average 7-seed for sure.
I disagreed heartily with this coach. We texted back and forth about it. I picked Minnesota to beat Golden State before the series. I think in 7 as well, maybe 6, probably 7. So it's not like I can say, well, they only won because Steph was injured, because I picked them to win the series regardless. I don't know what would have happened, but that's a great series, I think, either way. And their numbers, once Randle came back for the last 30 games, whatever the series, are on par with all of those teams, like on par or better than most of those teams, or with most of those teams. And like, there's some truth to the fact that are all of those teams, Warriors, Clippers, Nuggets, Wolves, like roughly equivalent? Like, are they roughly equivalent in that their universe of possibilities is make the conference finals or lose a bad second round series? Yeah, they're roughly equivalent. It just so happens that Minnesota got a pretty friendly bracket and got to the conference finals. I don't think they're like amazing, but I can't call it fool's gold. Now, you mentioned Julius Randle. Quickly on the future of the Wolves. Randle player option, $30 million. Naz Reid player option, $15 million. Nickeil Alexander-Walker unrestricted free agent. If you just pencil in the player option numbers just for math purposes for Randle and Reid, they're pretty much at the first apron already with $0 for Alexander.
With no raises. Yeah.
No raises, no nothing. Now, they could go, those guys could do lots of different things. They could opt in and extend. They could opt out and sign new contracts with the Wolves, whatever. The let's really clean up our cap sheet move is to let Randle walk if he opts out, or just let him opt in and expire. Bring back Naz Reid on some number and bring back Alexander Walker on some number. Maybe bite the bullet on a really expensive team for 1 year and then Randle goes away. If I had to bet, I don't think all 3 of them are on the team next year. I just don't think that's feasible. And just because of the option mechanics, Alexander Walker, I think, is the most likely candidate to leave, particularly with Dillingham waiting to get minutes. Is that make them demonstrably worse next year? Probably. I mean, it hurts. He was awesome. There's also the Durant thing, which may or may not have been real. I don't know what's going to happen with that, but that's just my temperature take on the Wolves. They're going to lose one of these guys next year. And yeah, I guess it would have to be Alexander Walker based on logic as the most likely one, but that hurts, man. He was good. And by the end of this series, by the way, credit to Oklahoma City. This is what great teams do. They had the Wolves being like, do we just play one big man? Which instead of 2, our whole identity is we're going to play 2 of these guys almost all the time. I liked when they would go the other way and just like tweak it and play McDaniels at the 4 or Shannon all of a sudden can't miss a shot at the 4. But it's like, okay, we'll try Gobert. We'll try Randle. We'll try Reed. We can't play 2. We got to play 1. That's what great teams do. That's what the Pacers are doing to the Knicks. They're making them question things that they thought they understood about themselves. I don't know. That's you have any thoughts about Wolves' future?
I just don't understand how the logic of last summer, when you moved off of Karl Towns because you didn't like his long-term deal, makes sense to pay these guys on extensions with raises at from their current salaries. How does that logic hold when you got beat up in the conference finals last year and you did that move? You get beat up in the conference finals this year. Like, why would they be like, yeah, that thing that we didn't want to do last year, which is bring back Karl Towns, run it back with this cap sort of sheet being as dirtied up and muddied up as it is? Why is that a different logic now? Maybe some people will say, well, Glenn Taylor is gone and the sort of up in the air nature of the ownership situation has been settled. And you know what? Let's bring Julius Randle back at 40-something million per.
Ooh.
For the next 3 years.
And he's good. Julius Randle's a good player. That's a lot of money.
Let's play Nas Reed like 22, 23 million for the next 3-something years. Now you're paying those two $60-something million to play the same position. I don't see how that happens. I don't see how the logic is different this year. Like, I think they're gonna move on from these guys.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's like, yo, we got Ant Edwards. We can figure the rest out.
I mean, that would be. I mean, they're not exactly overflowing with trade assets either, so I don't know exactly kind of if they wanted to work some sort of trade where they get back something for one of them. I don't know what they would get, but I think the logic would be just breaking one big contract into 2, and maybe one of them is shorter. Although Towns' again sneakily extension eligible this summer. Right now it expires in 27-28 for $61 million. But it's interesting. So something more dramatic you are putting into the world. Then just re-sign and figure it out.
I mean,
later.
I'm sure one of Nas and Randle will come back. I just don't see how you give them this. Yeah, I guess it would be I break up Karl Towns into 2 contracts. But like, if you give them raises and you extend them for 3 years, it's Karl Towns' deal plus more.
Plus, like, I mean, is Randle more tradable than Karl Towns if he's making just 15 to 20 million less? Like, what's the gap in terms of player quality and salary?
If they could have traded him after the Warriors series, yeah. Unfortunately, that's not how life turned out for them.
So why it's wild being a Julius Randle supporter, which I am. It's just a wild swing of emotions. Okay, follow-up question number 3 and the last one. It's been hovering now for a while. Does Oklahoma City rolling to the finals over Minnesota change the way you feel about the Denver Nuggets, who took them to 7 games despite injuries to Michael Porter Jr., who was playing with one arm, and depth issues, and Aaron Gordon just limping around but still playing well at the end of that series? Does it make you reevaluate what felt like a disappointing season for a team that, was wasting Jokic's prime, had to fire its coach and its GM? Does it make you think, maybe they're actually a little closer to being a championship team than we thought?
I mean, I'm one of the biggest Nuggets truthers in our industry. Like, I felt in my bones they would take OKC to the distance. I've thought all year, like, look, get these guys in the playoffs, this collective experience. These guys are going to be awesome. But like, I guess they've grown in my estimation, like with Porter Jr. being so limited and with Jamal Murray, like, every other game looking like an all-star worthy kind of player. I guess they've like risen in my estimation, but like, I don't know. Like, I thought Denver was a great team before that. I thought they were a sleeping giant before that. And so, yeah, I think they need to add some more depth. I don't know that Strouder is the answer, or Pickett, or even Russell Westbrook. God bless him. He had some beautiful moments in the playoffs. But, man, you have Nikola Jokic. You got Aaron Gordon. You got Jamal Murray. you got something, and now Christian Brown, you've got a thing that can work against damn near anybody. Nobody has made OKC's defense look average as many times as Denver did in the second round. Now, granted, there were games where Denver's offense looked like trash in that series. But at the same time, like there were games that putting up 120 on this team back to back with no problem, right? And, you know, obviously Jokic is one of the greatest players we've ever seen. I know people are going to be like, oh, but the rings. But I'm sorry. Like, to me, this guy is a LeBron James. He's a Magic Johnson.
I think that argument is over. Like, I don't know how you could say he's
people
not
will
going to
say
be on
because of the
those
rings.
levels. Well,
people will say the rings.
Well,
but
like, you know, whatever. Like, you need a lot to go right for you to win all these
watch
rings.
This guy play, Zach. Like, he's one of the greatest players we've ever seen in our lives. Like, easily. I like... Watch the freaking games. This guy is something else. And so, you know, part of it too for me, Zach, was I was in my house all alone watching Team USA mount a comeback against Serbia when I was just sure they were going to lose that game. And, you know, we make the joke about Jordan playing against a bunch of mechanics. Serbia, it felt like, was threw out a bunch of mechanics out there.
Easy. You're talking to a Balkan adjacent guy. Easy.
And they damn near beat Team USA. Like, I just think the world of Jokic. And so, yeah, I guess my estimation of Jokic has risen after that series, for sure, dude.
It's such an interesting Rorschach test because it went to 7, right? Obviously, that's a feather in your cap right off the bat. You took the presumptive NBA Finals favorites to the distance. I picked Thunder in 6, so the Nuggets did better than I anticipated them doing. For the series, Oklahoma City was plus 64. And so you're like, well, and there were 2 blowouts. And if you, in those blowouts, they were plus 75. So that means if you took the other 5 games, Denver is plus 11. We're like, okay, that's encouraging. And that's like kind of the formula for Denver, right? Like they walk you down in close games and they have the best finisher and they have a championship formula. That's how they win. I would say like blowouts are part of it. Like being able to blow another team out is a massively important thing because it gives you just a margin for error in the other games that other teams don't have. And like the blowouts count. They count.
Of course.
There were 2 wins and then you just split the close games basically and you end up winning the series. It's why the Knicks are in trouble. They just can never win an easy game. Every game has to be difficult. And it just like, so you're going to lose some of those and lose some of them in crazy fashion. Game 1 was an outlier, but still, but I'm kind of with you. Like, even if they can't trade Michael Porter Jr. or don't even try, and his contract is not going to make any attempt to do so easy, I just think like that starting 5 is a real thing. They can go toe to toe with anybody if that starting 5 is healthy, and it was not healthy. And if Murray is Murray for 80% of the series,
I ask you about Murray though, and he's the guy that I'm most worried about because they paid the hell out of the guy, and like, is he ever going to physically be 2023 again?
I think that is the number one concern on the within and without about the Nuggets. I'm looking at his playoff numbers now: 22 a game, 44% shooting, 35% from 3. Like, that's good. It's good. 2 years ago, it was 26 a game, 47, 40% from 3.
That's
even if he can be somewhere in between those that, 2 guys. Yeah. I just and they can get one ring chaser who can actually contribute, like not Saric, not, you know, whatever, like a dead salary. They can't have 2 dead salary slots in Najee, who's not a ring chaser, he's their draft pick, but and Saric. And just the other young guys can get better enough that I don't know if this is pie in the sky. 2 of them can play for 12 minutes in a high stakes playoff game. Like,
I think Peyton Watson can.
Peyton Watson should get there. Like, I just believe in that core 4 guys, but Murray to me is more of a wild card. I know exactly what Michael Porter Jr. is and is not when he's healthy. And this was not representative of him. And I think he fits well with Jokic. I don't know what to tell you about Jamal Murray. He's only 27, 28 years old. Like,
he's 27 and we just conceded he's completely past his physical prime.
Shouldn't be that way. Look what's going on.
What?
couldn't really even play for like Team Canada last summer. Like, the whole thing was a disaster.
Like that's the thing that gives me pause about Denver. It's like, we talked about Bubble Murray before the injury, after the bubble. That guy was dropping 50 on guys' heads. Like that, he was a special player. And I don't know if he's ever going to get there physically again.
But I remember arguing a little bit with Bill before the series about Thunder Nuggets. He thought the Thunder would have an easier time with the Nuggets than I did. And I just said, like, when they're healthy, and I mean like when their guys around Jokic are available, they do not get rolled in series.
No,
every series is now they haven't had enough super
they don't
easy
just
series,
sweep people either. Yeah,
but they're in these series. So I'm with you. Like, I come out of this feeling a little better about Denver than I did 2 weeks ago. Okay, last topic. Bill raised some eyebrows on his pod with Russillo when he said that if he had to pick an East team just to like run or to bet on for their outlook in the next, I think he said 3 years, I'll expand it to 3 to 5 years, it's now the Pacers. The Pacers have now eclipsed Cleveland, Boston, Philly, Milwaukee, all of these sort of like, in his mind, New York, who they're beating and is more expensive than the Pacers and more capped out. All these other teams have had like injury-related catastrophes. Maybe some young teams are rising, but they're not ready yet. That Cleveland is the team that he would pick in the Eastern Conference. I said, well, that's a fun little topic. Let me get Waz and I just want to caution everybody. This is like quick and dirty. I spent like 15 minutes per team looking at cap sheets, picks out the door, picks in the door, talent in the door, all this stuff. And let's go 15-1, like 3 to 5 years, worst to best. Does Indiana really have the best outlook? And let's give some of these other teams love. So let's do it in chunks. Why don't you give me your
the worst
bottom
outlook in? Oh, huh? That's easy. That's super easy. This team.
Can we start from the bottom?
Yeah.
Okay.
The bottom. The last team is easy as hell.
Okay. I was going to say, give me your 15-11 and let's do it in chunks, but you do whatever you want.
No, but I think this first team is in a league all by itself in terms of horrible outlook for 5 years. It's the 76ers. Horror, dismay, 2 overpaid, over the hill ass veteran players. Okay. One of which cannot stay on the court whatsoever, and Joel Embiid, and Paul George, whose injury history, let's just say he's not exactly an Iron Man, right? Paying the hell out of them on horrible deals, no value whatsoever to those deals. And then, they got Maxey, who's nice. But again, I think the Embiid one, I think there's a universe where a team could talk themselves into thinking they'll load manage Paul George and they got enough young guys, and like, let's say Denver got smart enough and said, "Yo, let's move. Like, would you guys like Michael Porter Jr. and we'll take a shot on Paul George, making it work or something like that."
They've sticked around trading for Paul George like multiple times.
Like Denver, like a team could talk themselves into the Paul George thing. Horrible as his contract is, Joel Embiid, that's not gonna happen. Guys, they're done. They're finished. Stick a fork in them. I'd rather be every single other team in the Eastern Conference for the foreseeable future than the Philadelphia 76ers. You had a different 15?
I had Philly 12th. Now, again, blink test, as Bill likes to say. Here, look, they have Maxey plus McCain plus the third pick in this draft is like at least somewhat mitigating to me the disasters that you just outlined. And maybe I can I hope? I can't even hope anymore. I can't hope that there's 1 year where all this
Joel Embiid? That Joel Embiid's going to be good?
I said to Bill the other night, I can't count on him ever playing 50 games in a season again. Like, I just can't. And I certainly can't count on those 50 games being perfectly timed for a playoff run where if we get to this round of the playoffs, which, by the way, we've never even gotten to, the round that's going on right now, I got to play every other day in high-intensity games against elite defenses. Like, it's just like, I had them 12th. Here are the 3 teams I had below them. I want to hear where you had them ranked.
Mm-hmm.
Washington, Brooklyn, and Milwaukee.
Yes. Those are the Bucks are 14 for me because they have nothing in terms of a future, and they're inevitably going to move Giannis. Like, that's gonna happen. Now, if you told me they were gonna be resolute and just being like, yo, there's value in actual money, meaning gate receipts, and just keeping Giannis being a 7th seed type of team, whatever, if they were dedicated to that and Giannis was just like, screw that, I'm not going to ring chase. I don't want to end up like KD, ring chasing in Brooklyn, that blowing up, ring chasing in freaking Phoenix, that blowing up. I like it here in Milwaukee. I'm a lifelong Buck. I'm going to be the greatest Buck ever, whatever. I'm a pillar to community, statues, all of that stuff. All right, cool. If you told me both parties were committed to that future, then I would have them, further up the chain, but it's obvious Giannis is going to eventually move on, and that thing is going to be desolate. And so, yeah, I got the Bucks at 14. And, the Wizards and the Hornets were fighting for the spot after the Bucks for me because what's so good about the Hornets? Like,
you're gonna laugh at where I have the Hornets, but let's talk about. So the Bucks. They still have Giannis. I can't put them any further down than 13th if they still have Giannis.
Mm-hmm.
What they get for Giannis, if they do indeed ever trade him, is going to be interesting. And like, presumably they'll get a lot. Can they triangulate it so they get some of their own picks back? That would really help. I don't know that that's going to be possible. We'll see. Let me just defend my Brooklyn and Washington. Where did you have Brooklyn and Washington? I had them 15 and 14.
Brooklyn is 12th for me. And yeah, Washington is 13.
So,
but again, like, this is a whole morass right here. Hornets, the Wizards, like Brooklyn, like there's no. I look at them as they don't have a young guy on their team, like say the Hawks, right? Like Jalen Johnson, I think the world of. There's nobody on the Wizards who I think that of. There's nobody on the. Well, I guess I like Brandon Miller, but like these are young guys that I'm like, they seem nice, but do they have perennial all-star written all over them? I don't see that on any of these rosters.
Okay.
Do you?
Okay. Two things, because Wizards fans, the 19 of them that are still out there, are going to be so furious. He's like, well, we've done all this great stuff. We have swaps. We got picks.
Oh, yeah.
Like we've done the right thing. And I'm like, that's all true. Like, I like Alex Sarr. Fine. I like Koulibaly. Fine. Keyshawn George. All right. Like to me, all of these like theoretical teams, it's very hard to build them into an actual good team, particularly when the lottery gods knock you down to 6th in this draft. They have 6 and 18 in this draft. A bunch of young guys that are like, sure, whatever. Like all of these teams are, it actually going through this exercise makes you appreciate that, like, there aren't a lot of teams that are like, there's no team that's just grossly mismanaged and in a horrible position. Like the Wizards are all right. I just don't know what they are. The Nets, I have above the Wizards solely because those Knicks picks they have far out are pretty valuable picks, and looking pretty valuable. And maybe I'm underrating them by having them so low because they do, they are in New York. Free agents have gone there before.
But you got to have guys in house.
Yeah, I don't know.
If we're talking about the next few years.
Is there one guy on the roster right now? Is there one that's going to be on the next 50-win Brooklyn Nets team? The answer might be no.
That seems hard to believe.
Like is Cam Johnson going to be on the next 50-win Brooklyn team? Is Nick Claxton going to be on the next Brooklyn? Is Cam Thomas, or who's extension eligible? Are any of these dudes going to be on the next actually good Brooklyn Nets team?
I don't think so.
So I had Washington, Brooklyn, Milwaukee, Philadelphia. So let's take this next group of teams. Charlotte, Toronto, Chicago, Miami. Yeah. Those 4. How did you have them ordered?
I had the Raptors, then the Bulls.
Are we going bottom up?
Yeah. Then Miami. So Charlotte to me is at the bottom. Like, this is a team they were floating trading LaMelo Ball throughout their management is like, we're open to moving on from this guy in the offseason. He's allegedly the centerpiece of their team. They're openly shopping the guy during last regular season. I don't think that bodes well for your next 5 years. If the guy who, I mean, their best player is probably Miles Bridges, but like, the guy who made the All-Star team, or who people thought should be an All-Star, is on the trading block. Like, your team is nowhere, you know? And so, yeah, Charlotte at the bottom of that. Raptors. To me, the Hawks are at the top of that because they do have an All-Star. And they got Jalen Johnson, who I think is on the cusp of All-Star level, you know, playing as long as he can stay on the court.
So you're going to laugh at me. I went 9 Charlotte, 10 Toronto, 11 Chicago, 12 Philadelphia. I mean, look, none of these teams, like, I think Toronto is in the most interesting position in the NBA because
what's so interesting about it?
Well, but they have all these guys, like, you've heard of all of them, and like they're interesting.
They're
and they pivoted
guys,
from
a lot of rotation guys.
They pivoted from this team that, you know, has several players playing very well in the playoffs right now to a young, but not like that young team of like Barnes, Barrett, Ingram, quickly, that we, in fairness, have not seen at all. And while they did that, they traded stuff to get Jakob Poeltl back. And now they have all these guys, like, they don't have a lot of shooting. They're really expensive for a team that's not been very good. They're like right up, they're like in tax danger the next couple of years. They're picking 9th this year. Now they have all of their picks and all their swaps going forward. I just like, I don't know. They're trying to do this middle build thing again where lightning strikes and a Kawhi deal emerge. Like, I don't know. I mean, look, they have a much more decorated pedigree than the Charlotte Hornets, who I have one spot above them. But the Hornets do have LaMelo Ball. Your concerns are legitimate. LaMelo Ball has to decide, am I a carnival or am I a basketball player? Because if he decides he's a basketball player, he can be pretty damn good. They've got Brandon Miller, who I like, Mark Williams, who I like, and picks 4, 33, and 34 in this draft, and a couple of pretty valuable picks coming in, including a Dallas pick that they got in the PJ Washington deal, I think. I don't know. You could talk me into either way. And the Bulls, where'd you have the, like, what's the argument for like high level optimism about the Bulls? No, there isn't one.
There isn't one. Again, all of these teams, one, at least the Heat management have a history of putting together Eastern Conference finals.
That's
teams.
why I have Miami 8th above all of these teams.
You know what I mean? Like, there's a healthy respect for that. None of these other teams can claim this. I think the Bulls, there's a sense that they know they're going in a certain direction. Although with the Bulls, you never really know. Like, they finally picked the side of like, all right, we don't want to be middling. And middling not even being like 49 wins. Middling being 41 wins and being dedicated to that outcome year in and year out. It seems like they're moving in a different direction. But in terms of what's already on the team, I know people love the rookie who, you know, showed...
Zealous is good.
Yeah, he showed signs the second half of the season. And Josh Giddey played the best ball of his life. I'm a Kobe White fanatic. I love Kobe White. I'd like to see him get traded to a real team so he could like actually get some playoff reps someday. But I think the optimism with the Bulls is that they've finally chosen a direction to run toward.
What direct is the direction is what?
I don't know. Embracing young guys.
The thing about the East is you can't even choose to bottom out. It's like impossible to choose to bottom out. And it's not impossible. The Wizards did it and it didn't work. But like the Bulls are looking around like.
There are 6 bona fide, strong playoff teams in the East. Everybody else can kind of talk themselves into thinking they should be in the mix for the last 2 spots of the NBA playoffs.
And again, like the fact that I have the Bulls 12, it's actually not. Their situation's fine. They have all of their picks and swaps. They are a big market. They have a pick coming from Portland that could convey next year, maybe the next. So they have an extra pick. They've got a bunch of interesting young players, Buzelis chief among them. And even though they have Giddey's contract coming up, Kobe White's extension eligible, I don't think they can actually extend him because he'll want more than they're allowed to offer. Io's extension eligible. They've got to figure out the Vooch thing. He's expiring. They could have a max slot
do
next
they have
summer.
Do they have to figure out the Vooch thing?
I don't know. They might. Who knows? With the Bulls, they might sign him to like a 5-year, $150 million extension. Like, we're just going all in.
Vooch needs to be sorted.
So I had Miami 8th based on just like I've doubted them before. their ability to dig out of what looked like permanent mediocrity. I'm not going to doubt them again. I'm just not going to. I don't want to get. We don't have to get too far into it. They've got some interesting young players. Bam, Hero. Hero is sneakily extension eligible. So that means my top 7. I wonder if this matches yours. Is in no particular order: Indiana, Cleveland, Atlanta, New York, Boston, Orlando, Detroit. Does that match your top 7?
I had the Hawks at 8 and the Heat at 7.
Fair enough. I have the Hawks like preposterously high.
Yeah.
I like. Let's do it like this. Well, let's just go straight to the top. Who'd you have number 1?
I ended up having Cleveland too.
Me too. I have
They
Cleveland
have
number
3
1.
All-Stars on their team, all under the age of 28 or whatever Donovan Mitchell is at this point. Again, I don't know how you like watch Indiana play and say, we can't possibly beat them next year. Like, that's insane. Like, Cleveland has to think they can beat Indiana next year. Mobley has so much room to grow even further as a player. And he seems like the kind of guy who's going to put in the pain and the work to get there. I still believe in I still think Garland has an actual good playoff run in him. I thought he was excellent this regular season. In fact, underrated in how great he was this regular season. You know, I think their coach knows what the hell he's doing. I think there's something to having an off season where you know what your target is. Where it's like, our target's Indiana next year. That like, this is what every guy who matters on that team is thinking about, how they can make themselves a better player in the context of a series against Indiana. And yeah, the guys are young. They're locked in contractually. That's the best, to me, situation. When you consider like Tatum's freaking Achilles is going to take a year for him to come back. And then even when he comes back, he's got to get worked in and stuff.
Yeah, I had Cleveland 1. All the reasons you just said. I don't really even care that like it's possible Sam Merrill and Ty Jerome are on other teams next year because of their financial crunch. I don't care that they have a bunch of guys that are extension eligible, including Garland sneakily, and we'll see what they do with like Hunter, Strus, Dean Wade, whatever. Don't care. I don't even care that at some point they may / probably will have to trade one of the 4 guys for like multiple pieces and or salary relief to just reorient their team. And as I've said before, I think that whoever they trade will not be Donovan Mitchell, will not be Evan Mobley. And so you just start narrowing down like the suspects of who it could be. I don't care. I'm taking them number 1. Did you take Indiana number 2?
No, I took Boston number 2.
Wow.
I think when Tatum comes back, they're going to be fine. They're going to be a contender. I really believe that. I think Tatum is going to reorient the center of gravity of his game. I think it'll be less perimeter oriented. I think he's going to lean on being stronger and bigger than most of the guys that he plays against in a way that he just doesn't right now. I think the Achilles is going to necessitate that transition. And I think they're going to be damn good when he comes back. So long as they keep Jaylen Brown. Because I don't know, I saw somewhere where like, oh, Brown might be on the move. I think that would be an insanely stupid thing to do.
I think if they did that, it would be A, they're getting real stuff back.
Like an
B,
actual all-star back?
I don't know. I haven't found a Jaylen Brown deal that I love because they have to get some quality players back. But B, like, again, similar to the Towns thing, just breaking a giant contract into smaller, mid-sized contracts, whatever. I had Boston 3. You could have talked me into Boston at anywhere from 4 to 6. I had Indiana 2.
Okay.
I just like they have 2 guys making like $90 million combined in Halliburton and Siakam. And yeah, they're going to be in the tax next year if and when they bring back Miles Turner. They could slide a little down if they dump Mathurin, and I think he's the most likely dump candidate on the team. Maybe the most interesting extension possibility of the whole summer that no one's talking about is Aaron Nesmith, who's eligible, I think, for like a 3-year, $67 million extension that would tack on 3 years.
He might could hold out for more than that.
He might be able to. I don't know. It's a spicy one. Now he's got a couple more years left on his contract, so this would be like tacking on at the end. And just something to watch for Indiana. You know, everyone's like, oh, they never go into the tax. The Simon family doesn't want to go into the tax. Just something to watch. I don't know, like, how long. Like, they have a minority owner named Steven Rails who bought 20% of the team a couple years ago. Very involved, I saw some of his family at the game in New York. From what I've heard, if he ever would be able to get governing control of the team, he's much more willing to go into the tax than the Simon family is. So just something to monitor. I just like their team. Boston, I had 3. But you could talk me in. You could talk me into Boston, New York, Atlanta, Orlando, Detroit, in almost any
Atlanta,
order.
You could talk.
Let me make the case for Atlanta.
Atlanta being in the top 4.
Let me make the case for Atlanta.
Yeah, make the case because this is interesting.
Their salary stuff is pretty clean now.
Yes.
Their draft pick stuff, considering that initial DeJounte Murray trade, the one where they acquired him, was a disaster, is pretty clean now and very clean after like 2027. And they actually have a pick that's coming in 2027 to offset the one they have going out. They're pretty safe from like tax apron stuff, assuming they let Capella walk. And I think they'll do that and re-sign LeVert. Now, obviously, hovering over this is like, if they decide that Trae Young's not part of their future at any point, they're going to take a step back. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. He's extension eligible too. That's going to be a fun one. He's got a player option for the year after next. It's interesting. I just think like Trae Young plus Jalen Johnson plus Ricochet plus Daniels is like, that's like not a bad nucleus. And when you have a little wiggle room financially, you could you could talk like, look, I'm just saying, do you have Orlando above them?
Yes. And Detroit 100%. And this is why I ask you this. Can you envision Trae Young carrying a team to the conference finals? I get it. They did it that one year. Get it. Then suspect East, but whatever. Could you envision, in the context of the East as it exists right now, being the engine of a conference finals team in the way that we've seen Brunson do it and Halliburton do it and Tatum do it? And we, to be fair, haven't seen any of the Cleveland guys do it.
It's hard to see.
I just have way more faith in the Orlando guys, way more faith in Cade Cunningham to be that kind of player.
Fine. Like I said, you could put these teams in any order. I didn't even mention Okongwu. I like LeVert.
Love Okongwu.
I like they've got something going there.
Some guys, but
that's interesting. But like, here's the thing: Orlando's top 2, indisputably better. Well, better than Atlanta's top 2. Banchero is a star who's going to be a playoff star. Wagner, if he can ever figure out what the hell's going on with his jump shot, is an all-star level player for sure. My question about Orlando is, like, who are the other guys on the team? Because they do have all their picks and all their swaps.
Jalen Suggs is definitely another guy.
Well, Jalen Suggs is a great guy. Love Jalen Suggs. He's never healthy. But I think he fits really well with those two guys. I love that trio. They're suddenly like really expensive.
Mm-hmm.
They need Anthony Black to hit and maybe De Silva becomes one of the guys. I like De Silva. Jet Howard has barely played. Isaac is like, I just can't play more than like 15 minutes in any game. And they're suddenly kind of expensive. And like Wendell Carter Jr. is all right. He's all right. Like, I think they need a better center than him. I just feel like they're so far behind figuring out their offense. I feel like they're a little bit more like urgently have to ask themselves, who's on the team that really makes a deep playoff run? Now, maybe it's just they're healthy. I think if they're healthy, they're a 50+ win team next year. It could be a top 3 seed. So maybe I am underrating them.
You think the Hawks on the doorstep of being a 50-win team? I definitely do not.
How many games did they win this last year?
I don't think so.
The Hawks are like
Eastern Conference play.
They're 40 and 42.
Yeah, Eastern Conference playing team.
Yeah, I guess you have to take Orlando over Atlanta. Boston is super interesting because I bet people would underrate Boston's like near-term, medium-term future based on what happened to Tatum.
I think they're fine in the medium term. I
think
really
so
do
too, because like they control their draft picks in 26 and 27 and basically 28, which is just a top 1 protected swap with the Spurs. I guess they don't control it, but like they have a lot of they have a lot of control over their picks for a team that's been kind of all in. They're going to reset their roster a little bit, but like Jason Tatum's Jason Tatum, man. They have one of the 5 to 6 best players in the NBA when he's healthy.
Let's just say
if he's
they
healthy
only
again.
move on from one of Kristaps or Drew Holiday this offseason because new ownership steps in and is just like, come on, guys. Like, why are we paying $400 million for a Jason Tatum-less team? I get it. Insurance will cover some of it, whatever. Why wouldn't that team be a top 6 team in the East? That's a top 6 Eastern Conference team, that roster. Sans Jason Tatum and Porzingis or Drew Holiday. Yeah. That's a top 6 East team.
It's not deep. They're staring at Horford's free agency and Cornette's free agency. Obviously Pritchard, White, Brown, one. Let's say. I mean, I'm not sure it's a lock that both those guys are on the team next year. Porzingis and Holiday, though. That's the thing. I think there are scenarios where neither of them is on the team next year. We didn't talk at all about Detroit.
Detroit is my number 6.
I had them 6th as well. What an exciting moment for the Pistons.
Yeah, it's finally.
There's really like nothing not to like.
Yeah.
They don't have a pick in this draft. Other than that, they've got their draft stuff. Cade making all NBA, bumps his salary. Same with Mobley, up to 30% of the cap, which is not great, but not great for them, but great for Cade. I just like the Knicks were like, I don't want to play this team anymore. This team's tough and nasty, and Duran seems to be figuring out. Thompson
you can
seems to
do
be
the
figuring
sports fan thing, Zach, and be like, look at the point differential of the first round series with the Knicks and be like, we're a conference finals team. You can do that if you want to.
What do you think of the big question? I think is Ivy. What do you think of Ivy? He's extension eligible. Should he be a long-term part of that team? Is he and Cade the backcourt that makes sense?
I think you need another guy who can actually put the ball on the deck. I don't think this idea that you turn Cade into like a Luka Doncic in Dallas type of guy. Even in Dallas, he had Kyrie Irving. And I think you literally need another dude who can actually shoulder the burden of creating offense for himself and others. And another thing, I think Cade, needs to be a better off the ball player in order for that to be facilitated. And it's tough when you have 2 young guys because I think Luka has kind of been a fully realized on ball guy for like years, basically since like year 3. So it's like, Luka, like you don't really have a lot more to learn on the ball. Why don't you learn how to do shit while you don't have the ball in your hands? I don't think Cade is there yet. So there is an awkward tension in terms of that he has more to develop on the ball, but Ivy needs the rock too. And so at the same time, he needs to be learning how to be a threat when he isn't pounding the rock, for days at a time. So yeah, I think Ivy should be a part of what they're doing. A guy who nobody could stay in front of is a valuable guy, in my opinion.
I do too. He was not forgotten about, but the Beasley Hardaway shooting guard combo really worked for them for the most part last year. Both of them are free agents. Ivy, what did he break his leg? I think halfway through the season, didn't play again. I thought that you started to see some hints of an improving fit with those 2 guys on the floor at the same time. I think he shot much better from 3 this year. Limited sample, but you want the limited sample to be going up, not going down. It's better than nothing. And I totally agree with you. Like, I like the contrast in styles with how they play with the ball, and look at Ant right now. Like, they need another guy who can break defenses down off the dribble, who's not deliberate with it like Randle. I liked and in the playoffs, I think you started to see some chemistry between like the Cade, Duran, Asar Thompson trio with like Duran in the short roll, hitting Thompson, cutting to the basket. I like a lot of what's going on there, but if I'm the Pistons, I'm absolutely like going to Jaden Ivey, trying to get an extension done. Maybe I get a slight discount because of the fact that
What do you think is a slight discount for Jaden Ivey?
Well, coming off a broken leg, kind of checkered first 3 seasons in the NBA. He's making $10 million next year. Could I get him 4 years, $120 million?
Yeah, so like basically the Jalen Green contract, basically. But this is 4 years.
Could I go 4 years, 100? Like, could I am I getting too greedy?
I think that's when I think that's when guys start being like, I'll take my chances and bet on myself. But I think he is in the Jalen Green territory extension wise, where it's like, we don't think, that you're bad enough that we'll be like, oh, you don't want to take this? Watch, you're not going to perform well enough and we're going to have you over a barrel. But at the same time, like, it's not out of the realm of possibility that this guy could just completely just almost Tyrese Maxey it, where the offseason before, I think most people would have been like, not a max guy. And then comes in, plays without the extension and shows himself to be, a high quality guy. I think to thread that needle, you do the Jalen Green thing where it's like, well, I guess the Rockets realize Jalen Green ain't worth the money that he got. But I was still kind of a Jalen Green believer and thought that maybe he could show that he was, could be an elite talent there.
They're in a nice situation, particularly because I don't think any of these extensions, like Duren's extension eligible too, I don't think any of them are going to be like break the bank. All of a sudden we have like three guys making the max. Then they have Tobias expiring after next year. And I think that's one where unless he's willing to take a discount, you just got to be like, we're kind of ready to move on from like our post Tobias Harris era. Thank you for serving your purpose and being feisty in the playoffs. That was awesome. New Tobias Harris. Just a fun situation.
Wait, I didn't get your thoughts on the Knicks.
Oh,
what do you think about the Knicks' future?
I had the Knicks fourth.
Me too.
I think there's a lot of angst right now with Knicks fans. Like angst about Tibbs, angst about did we miss an opportunity, angst about can a team with Brunson and Cat bookending, the defense at point guard and center, is Cat even a center? Like, can we really win 3 to 4 playoff series? And it's like, cool. This has been a tough series. Game one was an all-time gut punch.
Yeah.
You're in the conference finals. The East around you, a lot of it is collapsing or wobbling. Yeah. Bridges has been a disappointment. He won't take layups anymore. There was like, is Durant in play? Whatever. Anunoby makes a lot of money. Bridges extension is coming. I'm like, all these dudes are good and in their primes. Like, I think it's a pretty fucking solid situation. Despite all your picks, a lot of your picks are gone. I think they're just like, if I can have 5 to 6 good players in their primes, including 2 all NBA players. So great players. Yeah, it's not perfect. Like, wow, you got to figure out like a kind of a strange roster. It's a good roster. I like
question. We know Cat is touchable. And you just mentioned,
oh boy.
I'm just asking. You just mentioned the difficulties of Jaylen Brown and Cat and Jaylen
Brunson.
Excuse me, Jalen Brunson. Sorry. He's got some limitations. Is Jalen Brunson untouchable?
Oh, come on now. Come on.
I'm just asking.
His dad is the assistant coach on the team. They broke every tampering rule. His freaking godfather is the GM.
The better question is, would you trade Jalen Brunson if you could get in the mix for Giannis?
Now that is a better question. I think you have to. I mean, how could you not at least have a meeting? Like maybe we got to.
What is Godfather?
Maybe we got to ghost Rick out of the meeting and just have it in secret. But like, you got to have a meeting. It's Giannis. It's Giannis and Cat together. Like that's interesting.
Yeah, like I think that is the only kind of thing you do a Brunson deal because, like, again, he has his obvious limitations. He's a perennial all-star. He's obviously endeared himself to New York Knicks fans in a way that, like, quite frankly, is just shocking to me. I didn't
He's
know.
A god. He's a god
literally,
there now.
Literally. And I know Knicks fans would be so freaking conflicted, but on day 2, they'd wake up and be like, wait a second, we got Giannis now?
That's one where you gotta have the meeting and you gotta be like, hey Rick, we need you to go. Like we left this thing at the office at the Garden, and then everyone meets at the practice facility for 2 hours in Terrytown. Like, hey, Rick, can you go pick this thing up? I think we left it there. All right, Woz, this was a lot of fun. By the way, I want to shout out We realized in the fall we were both in the same little city in Spain at the same time last summer.
Oh,
How
yeah.
cool is Sitges, man?
Oh, my
Sitges,
God.
like total under the radar gem. Everyone should go there.
Just an incredible place. It's only like 30 minutes outside
Barcelona.
of Barcelona. And yeah, like really cool beaches. Like I'm somebody who's not afraid of like being at a crowded beach. I get it. Most people like a more quiet beach. Sitges offers that. And just like it's just a beautiful place. Like all of these mountains and the hilly ass areas, and just was really, really cool. A cool day trip. Ended up taking because like you cannot get an Uber out of there. Like you can take an Uber to there.
Uber doesn't exist, basically.
In Sitges, right? It's like, and so we ended up having to take a train. I don't speak Spanish, and somehow figured out how to take the train back into downtown Barcelona. Just an incredible day trip that I would advise anybody who ends up going to Barcelona to try to get out to Sitges if you can.
We were there for 4 days, and we discovered it totally by accident. I was just looking for places my daughter could swim at the tail end of our vacation. It turns out my wife's college roommate lives there, and so we were like, we're going there, and it was awesome. All right, Big Waz, group chat. When's the next group chat?
Depends on what the Knicks do tonight. If the Knicks win, we're going live after the Knicks game on Saturday.
Let's go.
If the Knicks lose, we get the weekend off. We'll be back top of the week next week, Monday.
Gut feel. Knicks win or lose tonight.
Knicks are toast. They're toast. They're toast. I think the Pacers are
You know what? Forget it. I'm going the other way. Knicks win. Knicks by 25 at home. How about that? Big Waz, let's go Mets.
So.
I'll see you next time,
Let's go
bud.
Mets, man. Appreciate you, bro.
All right, that's it for today and this week. Unless something really crazy happens, we'll be back on Monday with a new edition of the Zach Lowe Show. Will we have a finals preview? Will we start talking about the finals? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Knicks, can you keep us alive? Can you get us to a game 7? Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks to Jesse, Chris, Bobby, and Oscar on production. We'll see you next week on the Zach Lowe Show. Must be 21 and over and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 and over and present in D.C. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.